Magic Lantern, Chapter 11, The Pocket Watch. Sandy woke up the next morning praying that the boys, the murders and the magic lantern were just part of a very detailed and incredibly real dream. The jungle sounds of the zoo outside soon brought her back to her new reality. As soon as she stepped outside the little room, Harry collared her. "You lad, still here, I see?" "Yes, sir," Sandy replied. "Well, if you're going to stay in Tam's old room, you might as well take up his job here," Harry said and handed Sandy a broom. "Get Solomon and Betsy's cage swept, and then I'll see if I can't rustle us up some breakfast." Sandy was stunned by the callousness. Tam had only been discovered murdered the previous day, and his job was already being given to someone else. It seemed so heartless. "You needn't look so injured. It's not like we don't care about Tam. What happened to him is nothing less than tragic. But the animals don't give a fig for who cleans and feeds them, as long as they're seen to." Sandy stood with the broom in her hand and looked at the pair of well-dressed apes. Solomon met her stare and made a noise that Sandy assumed was laughter. "Come on, boy, run. I haven't got all day," Harry barked at her. He opened the door to the monkey house and Sandy entered, ready to clean up their mess. Solomon, who was dressed in a green velvet suit that made him look like a hairy leprechaun, tugged and pulled at Sandy's jeans. She tried to push him off, but he was persistent. "What is it, monkey man?" Sandy asked the chimp, who responded by baring his teeth as if smiling at her and making funny little whooping noises. Sandy made whooping noises back. Then Solomon did a very strange thing. He reached into a small hole in the wall at the back of the monkey house, pulled something out and put it in Sandy's back jeans pocket. Sandy tentatively put her hand in the pocket, expecting to find a bit of half-rotten banana or a chunk of chimp poo, and was very surprised when her fingers closed around something hard and smooth. She pulled it out. It was an old-fashioned pocket watch with the name Thomas Murray engraved on the back. Wasn't Murray the last name of Jamie and Bobby, and wasn't Tam short for Thomas? "Where did you get this?" Sandy asked. The ape responded by pursing his lips together as if he was blowing a kiss, blew a raspberry instead, then shook his head. "Not telling, eh?" Sandy put the watch back in her pocket before Harry, who was sitting on a chair reading a newspaper outside the cage, could see it. She tried to glance over his shoulder to see if she could catch a glimpse of any progress on the murder case, but the print was too small to read from this distance, so she hurriedly finished sweeping the muck into a neat pile and then scraped it up with a shovel. Harry let her out of the cage when she was done and told her where to put the muck. When she returned, he was standing at the door of the small room which Sandy had called home for the last 2 nights. Harry had relit the stove, and a whistling kettle sat on the hot plate alongside a frying pan, which was just beginning to sizzle. Harry added 2 bits of bacon and 2 eggs, which jumped and sputtered in the hot fat. The aroma of the cooking meat and eggs was the most wonderful smell in the world. Sandy's stomach gurgled. "You hungry?" asked Harry. "I bet you are. Go wash your hands. Breakfast will be ready in a minute." Sandy showed the young zookeeper her hands, which she had washed at the pump in the back wynd after she had dumped the chimp manure. She had found a bar of disinfectant-smelling soap with the word carbolic stamped on it in one of the store cupboards. It didn't smell particularly pleasant, but it did the job, and its medical scent was reassuringly clean. "You are unnaturally clean for a boy," Harry said, and plated up the delicious-smelling breakfast. "Get that down you." He handed her a plate of bacon and eggs and a cup of black tea. "Put hairs on your chest, that will." After chewing for a moment on his breakfast, Harry asked, "So where do you come from?" "I'm from the North Pole," she lied, mumbling through a mouthful of succulent, sizzling hot bacon. Harry nodded. Of course you do. That would explain your clothes. He wasn't daft. He knew the strange boy was lying, but eventually he would get to the bottom of it. And why exactly are you here? I want to be a performer. It was the most obvious answer Sandy could think of, and it was what she had told the detective the previous day. So you knew Tam then, eh? No, not really. I know Jamie, and he asked Tam if I could stay here just until I got my own place. Sandy waited for him to ask her where her parents were, but the question didn't come. Instead, Harry just started talking about Tam and poor Nellie. Such a shame. I wouldn't want to have been the person that found that old lady with her brains all smashed in like that. Horrible. And then what happened to Tam? Well, it just seems wrong. He eyed Sandy for a moment, waiting for her to answer. Yes, it's tragic, was all Sandy could think of as a response. Well, finish up, lad. You got work to do. You'll be paid as well, don't worry. I shall speak to Mr. Pickard. He's a fair man, if not the most generous. Do a good job, and he'll give you a bawbee or two for your trouble, he said, as he stood up. Go and get these washed, then come back to me and I'll show you how to feed the animals, he said, and handed her his plate. Harry, can I ask a question, please? Sandy asked as politely as she knew. Well, lad, I suppose it depends on the question. Well, it was just about the magic lantern. I've never seen one before, and I was just wondering where Mr. Pickard got it from. Are you thinking of saving your money to buy one of your own? It'll cost you more than you earn here in a year. Harry looked at the strange boy's earnest little face. This lad looked and talked odd, but he was a well-brought-up youngster, no doubt about it. But since you ask, he bought it at some auction a few weeks ago, or some other bits and pieces. It's a bit odd and old-fashioned, if you ask me. People want to see moving pictures these days, but Mr. Pickard thought we could use it to show advertisements between acts, so he got Tam and the old man to fix electric. But where did it come from? Sandy pressed. I don't know. Doesn't exactly tell me his business. Probably some old music hall closing down. I do know he bought it in London and he got it cheap, he answered impatiently. Now, get on with your chores, he ordered in the most authoritative voice he could muster. Sandy picked up the dirty plates and left. Harry's answers had left her with more questions. Where in London was this auction? Who had owned it? Why did it have such special powers? Did anyone else know about it? By the time Sandy got back from washing the dishes, Harry had gone. His newspaper was left neatly folded on the chair outside the monkey house. Sandy took the opportunity to flick through it and see if there was anything else written about the murder of the old woman, which might give her a clue as to why she was here. Solomon was reaching for her through the bars again and tugging at her jeans. Sandy handed him a banana and continued to read through the paper until she came across something on page 4 with the headline, Revolting Murder in Glasgow. And Sandy realised that Harry had been reading yesterday's Evening Times. She was about to put the paper away, thinking there was no point in reading the same news twice, when she noticed that the Evening Times reported a slightly different version of events than the Daily Record article George had read out. This article suggested a motive: burglary. Not by a Bill Sikes-type thug, but by someone known to the victim. The burglar had time, in the 10 minutes that Nellie was out, to light the gas in the bedroom and rifle through the papers in a workbox which were left strewn around the room, Sandy read. A number of valuable items, gold rings, bangles, chains and watches, had been left by the burglar. Only a valuable diamond brooch was missing. That's interesting. The message projected by the magic lantern had mentioned a diamond. Was it referring to the missing diamond brooch? Well, dear reader, you will have to wait to read the book to find out. Well, you'll have to wait until the book is released on the 2nd of November to find out. Until then, however, we have one chapter left to go, chapter 12, so join me on the first Thursday of October. See you then.